Hello everybody, it's Michael Hollands once again for Sound of the Movies. Today I have the pleasure to be joined by Fei Yu, Andrew Kawczynski and Rupert Gregson-Williams. On this episode we will talk extensively about their work on the film The 800, a Chinese historical war drama directed by Guan Hu. Welcome to my show everybody, I hope you're doing fine.
Hi there.
Hi.
Thank you very much for taking the time out of your schedule to talk to me today. Fei, I would like to start with you. You were the music supervisor and musical director on this project. Could you please elaborate on your role on this picture and explain the tasks which you faced during the process?
I was actually really lucky because around 2017, a director contacted me, said he just shot a movie called 800, and he want me to see the whole movies and to see if I'm interested to be involved with the music team. And so at that time, I saw the 5 hours a movie, and I'm really shocked after I watched the movie. And so after that, I talked with director. He kind of want me to start it to put the temp music into the movie and decided kind of like make a decision who gonna be the composer for this project. And after that, I got Rupert and also Andrew on board for this. And so we started to talk with director, the music direction, and I collaborate with Guan Hu really kind of like closely for asking what he really wants and including the music editing and also as well as the ending credit song. So it's kind of all my role for this project.
Thank you very much for elaborating on that. Rupert, next question is for you. As I understand, your contribution to the project was the main theme. Did you write a theme suite at first and then they handpicked the theme which they thought worked best for the picture? Could you please elaborate on that?
Well, firstly, I was like Fei. I was very lucky to get to work with Fei and especially Andrew again. Andrew and I have done lots together, and it was nice to be able to do a score where I was even involved with the lovely stuff that Andrew did on this movie. But they approached me. Fei approached me, and Guan Hu approached and asked for if I could provide some sort of a theme, and we talked about the movie extensively before, obviously. And I saw the movie. I saw the same 5-hour cut, or perhaps it was down to 4.5 hours cut by the time I watched it. that faded. I wrote a suite, but it was really just a development on the same melody, and I swung it past Andrew first, and then Fei before we sent it to the director. So in answer to your question, it wasn't a big elaborate sort of 30-minute theme suite of lots of different themes. It was very precisely what I wanted to provide, which was a heroic theme for the Chinese. Luckily, we hit that out of the park early on, and Andrew ran with that, and Guan loved it too.
Thank you, Rupert. And Andrew, the film had a budget of roughly $80 million, if I remember correctly. And reportedly, the director, Guan Hu, had been preparing the film for almost 10 years. A film which basically personifies the epic scale. Thus, the project was a huge undertaking, which must have been of utmost importance for the director and, of course, the entire filmmaking team. And how did you and the director communicate what you wanted to get out of the score? How did you react to his input and how did you make it work?
Well, at first, Fei, Rupert, myself, and Guan, as well as the sound editor, we had a spotting session for 2 days, went through the whole film, and, obviously we had that language barrier. So Fei was pretty much interpreting everything for us, and, just so we could get a general idea of where everything was at. But I could really see his dedication from the first frame that I saw. It was just so beautifully well shot, and it just really impacted me. And I knew how much it meant to him, and I really wanted to personify that in the score. And I think when Fei first contacted me in 2018, I think I spent about 2 months just really creating a sound palette and something that would be specific for the score, and finding musicians all around the world to really capture the the Eastern nature, but not really going completely Eastern with the music. Still have things be a little bit modern, but I set a rule to myself that I wouldn't use any instruments that was made after 1939 when this was made, and obviously I affected organic instruments to make them sound like synths or modern and different things, but it really was that 2-day session that I spent with Guan and everyone else that we really fully understood how much it meant to him.
Great. And you basically also had to bridge the gap between Eastern and Western instruments, right?
Yes, yeah, of course. We didn't really want to make, we didn't want to be offensive. And where, you see a Chinese person, it's, you see one of the 800, it's just straight up Chinese music with only Chinese instruments. And we wanted to take Eastern instruments and sort of really massage them into that Western sound, and as well as affecting them to create sound design and different effects and stuff like that.
Fei, next question is for you. Could you please tell me a bit about the recording, mixing, and the mastering process? As I understand, you recorded with musicians in different countries, including Los Angeles, London, Beijing, different cities, combining all these different elements, traditional Chinese elements, including the modern approach, so to speak. How did you experience that, Fei?
It's actually for this movie, we kind of like divided music into source music and also score. So because I have to in charge of all of the source music, and most of the source music is done in Beijing. And for example, all of the Peking opera and the Kun opera, all of these kind of things. And so this kind of things, we had that already in the picture because the source music. So we just kind of like having the recording before the shooting. And after that, we having a little bit after. So we're having kind of like an after session after the shooting. And we have both session in Beijing. And then after Rupert and Andrew wrote the whole score, and Andrew and me, we went to London, we went to Sofia, and also we're having the perk session in Los Angeles. So we're having all of this kind of score session done, and then we're mixing together in LA. But for the soundtrack, we also mixing again and also mastering in Montreal as well. So it's kind of like a whole process together.
It's a huge undertaking, basically. And as I understand, the whole process took you a whole year to finalize everything?
It is more than a year, actually, because the source music for Peking opera and for all of the kind of things, it happens before the shooting. So we having that kind of things. And at the end, we also having the ending credit song. We recorded both singer in Beijing and also Italy as well. So it's kind of like the whole music is recorded everywhere.
At this time, you didn't record in Vienna, right? Because if I remember correctly, you had recorded a score in 2017, which you did at the Synchron Stage Vienna.
Sky
right?
Hunter.
Sky Hunter, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, we recorded Sky Hunter in Vienna, but this time we didn't record it there.
Rupert, as I understand, you had a special connection and understanding of the story, also due to your grandfather who commanded the Peace Force in 1937. Am I informed correctly?
You are, yeah. I've got to admit, I knew he was there, and I knew somewhat what he was doing there, but I didn't know the history. I didn't really know this event. I hadn't heard of the 800 before Fei called me that day to ask me about this movie. But I've got my grandfather's diaries on my desk in the UK, and I pick through them occasionally. And they're really interesting. It was an interesting time for the British Army were there as a peacekeeping force to keep So you see in the film where the Chinese have been kept in some part of the city and protected by the British forces, or at least helped by the British forces. And that was the part that he played in it. So when she called, I immediately took a photo I had of my grandfather in Peking and in Shanghai at that time and sent it to her. So we had a lot to chat about before we even talked about music. It was interesting.
Great. Did this in some way influence your writing process or thought process when you came up with a theme?
That's a nice idea. The only thing I have of my grandfather's from that time is a beautiful pair of silk pajamas, which I've got to tell you, Michael, I don't wear, but I keep them. I keep them safe. Just I keep them away from the moths. But no, I got to admit, I didn't. I like I say, I got this 4.5 hour cut and watched it and then just immersed in the story. I did, however, look through his diaries, my grandfather's diaries, on the dates that this happened. He was in a different city. He was in Peking, and this happened in Shanghai. So he mentions his troubles, but he doesn't mention precisely what it is. So I would have been very interesting if he had actually described it. But I think in those days we didn't have the internet. We didn't. Maybe there was a blackout on the actual news of what was happening, but he didn't know precisely what was happening in those few days of the drama unfolding of the 800, even though he was in the capital city.
Andrew, I would like to discuss the difficulty of writing for drama, emotion, and also for graphic war scenes. How did you experience this? How did you combine all of this, including the human and emotional components?
Well, I think I really have to dedicate it to the story. It was such a compelling story, and just the way everything is directed and shot, it really kind of coalesced and everything kind of came together. And I just felt like a complementary piece at that point in time. And, whenever it comes to films, I always consider myself more of a storyteller than a composer, because I really want to say what's happening on picture, and not adjusting too much foreshadowing, and just having a right amount of balance of drama and lightness, and really choosing where things are. But there are some of these war scenes that are so graphic in nature, and they really impact you right away.
Yes.
And it's after you see it, you're just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe what I just saw. And so most of my inspiration, funny enough, came from the picture.
But I can imagine it must have been a pretty difficult process, because you have to cover many cinematic elements. You need to take them into consideration during the writing process in order to make sure everything is spick and span at the end. Big and bold war scenes, the soldiers, and the emotional touch of it. So that must have been a pretty daunting task.
I mean, it definitely was. And we didn't really have much time, towards the end. And it was kind of, all hands on deck, 24 hours a day. It was extremely stressful. I think it's been quite some time since I've worked on it, so I've forgotten how stressful it was.
This is bringing it back.
Yes, it's slowly creeping back in my mind. Yeah, all the amount of overdubs and working through the language barrier and everything. There were a couple scenes that are really difficult, and Fei knows which one, and Fei and Rupert knows, but both of them they were, and it was just it was really trying to get into the director's head on what would really bring this forward and make extremely heroic. And he Guan just really wanted to pull at people's hearts, because when this film was screened, there were certain parts where the film where just everyone was crying, and we wanted to work on that and really progress on that.
Thank you very much for elaborating on that. Fei, the end credits song is called Remembering.
Yes.
And it was actually recorded twice. There is an international version plus a Chinese version. And as I understand, you worked closely with one of the singers, Andrea Bocelli, so he could study the dialect for one specific line.
Yes.
You flew over to Italy. Could you please tell me a bit about your interaction with Mr. Bocelli?
Yes, it's actually quite an interesting story. Me and Andrew actually did kind of like a mock-up at the very beginning, and just for showing the ideas how we want to do it. And then I collaborate with Andrea's team because they're having some of the ideas how they want to develop the song or something like that. So, but before I fly to Italy, I recorded a Chinese singer just for showing the sentence like how to sing in Chinese, in Mandarin actually. And then I forwarded to his team, let them to prepare for everything. And then I flew to Italy and finally like met with him in person. And it's quite actually it is quite interesting because we recorded on a boat. It's my first time recorded like in a studio like is on a boat. But after we met with each other, I started just basically talking about the ideas for the movie and also show some of the clips to his team as well, and also interpret a little bit what's the song about, especially what the lyrics means. And then I started to teach him. I mean, I already sent it to him before, but just personally, just teach him how to pronunciate the last sentence in Chinese. And when I explain that the Chinese lyrics means smile, and so it's really funny that every time when he's saying, and he just smile as well. So it's the whole process went really smoothly, and like we just have no problem for this collaboration at all. And he really loves the song, and so because he really likes it, and he also having his own Italian version for this song as well.
And it's quite an interesting combination, Andrea Bocelli and also Na Ying.
It is. It is. So many people said like why I get two singers in the Eastern and Western is actually kind of like what our story talk, because it's actually in between. There's one of the river called Suzhou River, and the river kind of separate the south and also north where the warehouse is, where the story happens. And so that's why I want a female singer and a male singer just as a contrast, and also in the western and eastern also in a contract, but also because I feel like for this for appealing for the peaceful life is not just the Chinese things. I feel like it's a universal thing. It's like an international word. So that's why I really hope that this collaboration could bring these ideas to everyone.
Great, fantastic. Is there any special quality which you saw or recognized in them, something which only these two might be able to deliver?
Because this was adapted by Londonderry Air, and in the movie, because one of the soldier played that melody with harmonica.
Yes.
And so that's why I want using this tune at the very end, kind of like a book ending, but we just did English, Chinese, and also English version because we have to doing the international release, and I hope like more people, especially Western audience, could understand as well. So we did two versions for two of them, and then just one special version in Italian just for Andrea.
And as I understand, the Czech National Symphony Orchestra also made a contribution to the song.
Yes, that's a big collaboration. Andrew recorded harmonica in LA, right, Andrew?
Yes, yeah, I
Yeah.
recorded harmonica here in
And
LA.
also he adding some of the things or something for the arrangement, and we recorded in Czech, and mixing in Abbey Road and mastering in Canada. Again, it's like a world collaboration.
Congratulations on the album. It is now available digitally, and it features 80 minutes of music, which is a lot actually. And Andrew, congratulations on many of the cues. Some of them I found really impressive. You know, True Heroes, Day 1, Day 3, A Vision, The World is Watching Us, Before the Dawn. Those were really good cues. Rupert, if I'm not mistaken, The World is Watching Us and Before Dawn featured parts of your theme?
Yes, possibly. Yes. And they probably were saved up for moments of heroism. But if you've seen the movie, or when you see the movie, you'll see that there is plenty of heroism in the movie. But I thought it was impressive the way Andrew kept the tension, but we didn't overuse the emotion, because there's so much emotion in the movie, and there are so many moments where it's needed and where the music needs to support it. But you'd come out of the cinema completely whitewashed and unable to understand emotion if you were blown away by tears every 10 minutes. So I was impressed how Andrew restrained himself and used the emotion in all the important parts rather than all the time. There were actually some really magical parts. One of the favorite parts of the score was the White Horse. I don't know what titles they were. Andrew, do you remember what titles they were?
No, I think it's White Horse. I think it's just called White Horse, right?
It's just called White Horse. Okay. Yeah, okay, fair enough.
Or it's emerged with other cues when we released the soundtrack.
Yeah, sure.
Right.
Yeah, it's a reoccurring theme that happens a few times in the film, and I believe the track, I believe it's called The White Horse, is the only one that only features it.
And Andrew, is there any specific cue which you are most proud of? I know it's probably hard to pick any cue. Does the film feature any specific moment that makes you say, I'm really, really, really happy with the final result, as it really showcases my specific talents?
I think when it comes to the score, it was there were a few moments in the because in the film there's 5 days, and we were chaptering it on each end, making things getting more and more intense as things went on, and those attack scenes when it is things like day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, where the Japanese are attacking the 800 in the warehouse, and I spent a lot of time. I remember when I finished writing all of it, I kind of looked at my piano roll and I was like, I have no clue what key I'm in, because I'm breaking every possible rule I know, and it was just we were trying to get as much tension as we could without things sounding too horror-y or cliche and everything. So I think that part, and then as well, working in Rupert's theme, it was this. I remember the first time I heard it, I was like, that's it, there we go. And it was incredible to be able to run with it and really find all the different variations that we could do, and really incorporate it into the score as a whole. So there are times where it may not sound like it, but a lot of stuff is derived from that too.
Fei, Andrew, Rupert, is there anything else which you would like to add? Anything which I might not have covered? Anything at all?
From my side, it's just I'm really appreciate it, and I feel so lucky to work with Andrew again, and also work with Rupert as well, because for me, this movie, or maybe for all of the Chinese, this movie is really, really special for us. And but they see this movie the same like how I see this movie as well.
Great. Andrew, what about you?
Yeah, no, I definitely like to reflect on what Fei was saying. It was such an incredible film to work on, and just the whole worldwide aspect was really something special. That location was just kind of thrown out the window, and it didn't matter where you were in the world. We were going to get it done, and especially now what's happening in the world, it seems like that's pretty much the way that things are going to be moving forward. And it was sort of a nice taste of what the future might hold.
Yeah, it was really nice to be invited in by the Chinese to take part in such an important movie, and to invited us in with grace. and it's always lovely to work with a great team and nice people. That's you just got to hope that half of the films that you work on in your life, you work with people that you like and you enjoy being with. So
it is, and I mean, a great collaboration is essential to the filmmaking process, and I am really glad you had a fruitful and a nice collaboration, and I would like to thank each and every one of you for taking the time out of your schedule to talk to me today. I really enjoyed the conversation, and I hope you did too.
Good stuff, yes, Michael.
Yes, yes.
Thank you very much, and I hope you have a nice day, and I hope we get to chat again down the road.